Oh, Wilberforce.
Hello.
Hey,
Here we are. We
how
back.
are ya?
We back.
Yes, we are back. How's it going?
I'll let people get on the stream here.
Yes. Let me get a pencil. Sorry about that. What's up, everybody?
What's good? What's good?
Come on in. Sit down. Pull up a chair.
Camera. Just our camera a little bit here.
Okay.
Get you a little bit more in.
There we go.
There we go.
Who's here? Y'all put something in the chat?
Yeah, put something in the chat. Nobody's here. Oh, Laura.
Hello, Sister Hartley. Hello.
Yes.
Who else is here? You
Come on,
guys, we have had a whirlwind. Wait till we tell you. Wait till we tell y'all what has happened.
What happened was we thought we were doing one thing.
Yes. I don't know how to pronounce
and we
it.
ended up doing something else.
K-to-kim? I'm not sure what the...
Let's see the... Okay.
Yes.
Here now people are jumping on.
Mm-hmm.
Celt.
No, it's Celtic. I don't know, but I wonder what it means.
Maybe they're Scottish.
No, it's... Maybe. I don't know. I can't downplay it. I'm wearing my...
What are you wearing?
I'm trying to get around the mic. I'm trying, my professional party pooper shirt from the Black and Blurred podcast. If you have not checked out the Black and Blurred podcast, check it out. It is so good. Barbara's here, Antonia's here, Jenny, getting inky with it, is here.
Okay.
Hey, Kathy. You guys, it's been
a couple weeks.
We got a message on the phone.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been blinking at me all day.
She ain't checked it. Y'all, if you have called and we have not returned your call, I'm sorry.
We need a secretary.
We do. Yeah, it's been a couple weeks. So let's get into it and see what's going on. When we left our last family meeting,
it was the May 5th.
Yeah, so that was the Thursday before we flew to Florida for Wilberforce Weekend. We actually flew to Florida on a Thursday. Y'all gonna have to bear with me to understand the story of what we endured. So I get up on hey Melanie, I get up on Thursday morning. Our flight is at
we're starting way back there.
Yeah. Okay. Our flight is at like 9 or something. We need to be at LAX, which is an hour and a half from our house, about an hour and a half or more in traffic, an hour with no traffic. And my car would not start. And not only would it not start, but it was jumping. It was like
it sounded bad.
When I went to turn the key, my car was like back up. I was like, wait a minute. I own you. Yes. And my car was not playing.
And it's fairly
my car is a 2018.
Yeah.
And so it's not like, I don't have to get out and pray over it in order for it to start. I don't have to blow on it or like do dance circles around it. I don't have to call down spirits. No, my car is a 2018. It's a car that I saved and worked very hard to buy. And so I was quite surprised when it was like, forget you, I'm not doing nothing today. And so thankfully Bob Bontrager took us to LAX. And we get there for our
almost 2.5 hours.
Yeah,
to get there because it was rush hour. Oh,
it was bad.
So bad.
It was bad. So we get there just in time to be able to make it through TSA and get to our flight. And what happens? Our flight is delayed. So now it is
like no pilot.
No pilot. So our flight was delayed and we were like, okay, it's delayed. But they gave us the next time, which was around noon, and we would be able to take that flight. No pilot. So then they told us, well, at 2:00, we'll have a pilot for you. We promise. No pilot. So we ended up having to reroute through Atlanta. We had a direct flight to Florida. We had to reroute and go through Atlanta.
We thought we needed to make a quick decision because flights were running out and we had to get all the way to the East Coast to Orlando.
Yeah.
And there weren't a lot of options.
No.
And so we felt like, do we chance it that they're going to find a pilot or is it going to get canceled?
Sorry, go ahead.
If it gets canceled, then Bob's going to have to come all the way back here. And so then we just made a snap decision to get on a different flight.
Yeah. Yeah. So y'all, So we finally made it to Florida. I think we got in at 1 in the morning.
2 in the morning. We landed at 1.
Mm-hmm.
Then we walked downstairs to the rental car. And guess what?
They canceled our rental car reservation because I was 30 minutes late. Look, we have a wonderful volunteer who assists with all things travel, Deanna. And she had been like just there. We were just texting her back and forth. She was updating everything, our hotel, our car. Yeah. Well, she did the last update, and because our flight in Atlanta was delayed, and I can't text her at 11:30 at night. Like, that's just not okay. I got into the rental car place 30 minutes late. They had canceled my reservation, because I'm a preferred member. So I couldn't just walk to the car anymore. So I had to get in line.
That was another hour. So we finally got the car at about 2 in the morning, got to the hotel about 3 in the morning. We were so tired. And yeah, it had been a very, very long day.
Girl, I was reading that thing on the screen that said, what happened to young Black evangelicals? I thought somebody was asking me. I was like, I was barely a Christian. Forget about being an evangelical. By the time they had canceled my car, I was barely saved. I was trying hard to hold on to Jesus and not the other words that was going to come out.
No, that's a
but
teaser.
Okay, that's for you.
That's a teaser for
Thank you.
The podcast this weekend.
Well, thanks. So yeah, I made it to bed. You made it to bed at 3. I made it at 3:30, and then we had to be up for Wilberforce Weekend. You guys, Wilberforce Weekend with the Colson Center was awesome, awesome, awesome. Like, hands down, it is an amazing event. Started by the late Chuck Colson from Prison Fellowship. He started the Colson Center. It's a Worldview ministry for adults. John Stonestreet now runs that organization, and he just has a team of people who put on such a quality event. Thinking about Pam Randall and Liz King and, just his whole team, Brian Nels. There are people who just constantly, continuously give such quality engagement and interaction. There were about 1,200 people in person, another 5,000 people online. And I spoke about, a redeemed life. So that was the entire theme of the conference. So a redeemed life. What has our life been redeemed for? And what I spoke on was that our life has been redeemed for reconciliation, not racial reconciliation, because that's a lie. We have not been redeemed for this magical racial reconciliation. Racial reconciliation, in my personal opinion, is not a thing. My uncle Virgil Walker said that races don't reconcile, hearts do. And so I literally run with that at all costs. So we talked about what does it mean to be reconciled into the kingdom of God and how that makes us family and how we have a responsibility and an opportunity to evangelize others and invite them into the family. And so I was so thankful. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to make my way back in next. This was my 2nd year in a row. And they don't normally have people come back 2 years in a row. But now I'm like, y'all, we going to have to be a thing. This is going to be the family reunion. I'm going to have to come back next year. John, I don't know how that's going to work or how you going to feel about that, but I'm going to have to make my way up there.
Allison wants to know how you feel like the talk went.
I try hard not to critique myself because I find that I can fall into a trap and a spiral. And I also try not to take people's praise and credit to let it go to my head. And I also don't allow people's negative critique to really throw me off a lot. I'll try and take what I can from it. I thought about the talk. I put a lot of work into the talk. I prayed a lot about the talk up until the point where I was about to give the talk.
Yeah, we were making some last minute tweaks all the way to the end.
All the way to the end. Like, Lord, what do you want your people to hear? What is going to edify the body and the family? And so I was in prayer a lot about it. And I felt like I did what I was supposed to do. I felt like the scriptures were solid. They were in context and all of that. And so at the end of the day, I can only do what I did. And I did it with 100% of what I could do it with. And that has to be okay because I did my very, very best. I had a ton of positive feedback. And I didn't have any kind of negative feedback. I had people coming up to me talking about the talk I did last year. And so, I'm super thankful that people were quoting back to me pieces of my talk from last year. And so I was super grateful for that. But I try not to really go back on it in my mind. Like, when it's done, it's done. But I do that with I do that with podcasts. I don't listen to our podcast when we go back. I feel like I said what I said.
I do.
she goes back and she listens to it over and over again. I said what I said, and if someone wants to question me on what I said, we can have a conversation. But
I watch it back to learn, like, how could I have said that better? What needs to be more clear? What did I miss? I'm always trying to improve.
So I think when you've approached me and been like, hey, that probably wasn't the most appropriate way to say that, or that could, be a little bit more gracious, I have gone back and listened to it then to learn something. But to critique myself or to be like, how can I just be better? That'll lead me into a spiral that I don't have time to be in. I don't.
We got to go a little faster here. This is a lot of storytelling.
You working my nerve already. We've been on the line for 5 minutes. Here we go.
No, we've been on for 12.
Okay. So we started late.
All right.
So that was Wilberforce. Then, okay, do you want to go or you can go? Go ahead. No,
you're closer to the mic. Go ahead.
We can scoot it over. We can have mic equity. Girl.
I'm decentering.
You decentering your whiteness?
Yeah.
I'm not decentering my blackness, so I'm just playing, y'all. I don't want nobody to like soundbite that or make a clip out of that.
That's going on the discernment blogs
right
tomorrow.
At Wilberforce, I believe it was from Wilberforce, I actually got COVID and strep throat. And so after Wilberforce, we left to go to Tennessee to go see the Auntie Elisa, and got held up in her basement for a week straight while I was quarantining. You never got sick.
I don't know how I didn't get sick, because we were in the truck together all day. We had taken a day trip together, and when it ended up seeing our friend Kevin Briggins. And so we were in that truck probably 7 hours together that day.
Yeah, doing a bunch of different things.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, she's like, yada, 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 I think I have COVID. I'm like,
yeah, someone texted me, someone who was at Wilberforce texted me and said they had COVID. And I was like, I have a scratchy throat, but it's just my allergies. And so, no, it actually turned out to be COVID.
So and I felt panicked because I thought, oh no, because I had it pretty bad last time, but never did get sick. We were trapped in Elisa Childer's basement for about 6 days, quarantining.
7.
And it was long.
And so grateful for her family.
Yeah, her and her husband just were fantastic and just letting us be down there and watching the clock.
Yeah.
Oh, look.
So
we're on day 3.
There it is. We did that. And
big shout out to the Focals.
Oh, man. Yes.
Some of our friends in the ministry came through. They brought a humidifier and
vitamins and water, like all kind of stuff.
Yeah. So big shout out to them.
Yeah.
So
there was that.
Finally made it home on Monday night.
Yeah, we made it home late Monday night. I think we actually walked through the door around 11. But this harkens me back to a post that I made on Facebook about mask mandates. And I did want to thank you, Keita. Girl, this is a protective style. Yes. But anyway, let me get back to the mask mandates. And I want to say this.
People are curious about your hair though.
We're going to talk about all the comments. We're probably going to go over. So just sit down and hang out, family. I wrote something on Facebook a couple weeks ago about mask mandates and not, wanting to not endure mask mandates, but understanding that if you want
on your personal page.
Yeah, on my personal page. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. And if you don't. And I got some pushback about, there's a second, fifth, whatever stream of COVID coming and you don't want to catch it and everybody should wear a mask and people DM me and all this stuff. How can you say that? And I still stand by it. And here's why. In life, you are going to have to take risks. But we have to be able to have the freedom to take the risks. So,
and some people may not want to take the risk.
They may not, and that's your right.
Have that freedom too.
You have to have the freedom to be able to choose what the level of risk is that you are going to participate with in life. And so, yes, I got COVID. Yes, I was sick. Yes, I am still struggling with a cough. And yes, it is still worth it to me to be able to stand and say, even though this was the risk that I participated in and the chance that I took and the risk showed that I got COVID, I wouldn't want someone else to have to relinquish their freedom on my behalf. And so as we consider these things and I because I made the comment that I got COVID, I do want to to offer that no, I'm not sorry that I got COVID. I'm not. Life is full of risk, and we choose to participate in risk every day. And those risks will give certain results. Now, if you don't want to participate and have certain results, or you don't want to participate to a certain degree with risk, then do what's best for you and allow me to do what's best for me. So I just wanted to hit on that, because otherwise I don't want people in my DMs talking about, see, you got COVID and that's what you get. And don't come for me. That's just what I'm saying.
Okay. So now let's talk about your hair.
Okay. Yeah. So my hair is crochet locks, and I'm not going to give all the secrets to my hair, because then we ain't talking about all that. But this is, it's a protective style. Actually, I will, because I know some folks is just curious, and we don't talk about some things in public. But let me tell you.
Black people?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because I know you're curious. You've been curious. You have told me. If you could have went to the shop with me, you would have. But I had to tell her, no, stay home. She curious. So let me tell you what happens. My hair underneath all of this is cornrows. So
this isn't your real hair?
I'm gonna need you to hush, and I'm gonna need you to wait a minute, because you out of pocket. Okay. So my hair is cornrowed all the way under here, and then I have extensions attached to the cornrows, and it just fills it in, and it helps my hair. I oil my hair because my hair is dry. I and just try and take care of my hair.
Novella says I need locks.
Girl, yes. And these aren't actually locks, these are twists. But it's just a low maintenance style that I can get up in the morning. I just take it out of my bonnet, kind of play around with it, and then I go, because my hair will break very easily. And I'm not saying that white people's hair doesn't break very easily, but what I've noticed, especially when I'm under stress, my hair breaks very easily. I can get clumps of my hair when I wash it, especially when I'm stressed. And so I have to do something. You'll probably see this for a while, or some variation of this. Let Krista get some locks. Novella, you need to quit playing. You need to stop in the name of Jesus. That is not right. Can you imagine Krista with some locks?
Mike said, Mike's helping me. Uncle Mike's helping me here.
Right here. What he say?
He said,
I have 3 daughters. Something you don't mention. No, it's something you do not mention in public. You do not talk about what you be doing with your hair. But at the same time, so my hairdresser.
Are we going off code here now?
Yeah, my hair. And we gonna, like I said, y'all sit back, because we gonna relax today. We got some other stuff to talk about too. My hairdresser, she's a person that I hadn't been to before who did this. Because my regular person, we couldn't get our schedules to meet up. But I ended up telling the woman that I live with white people. Y'all, I could have told her.
The hairdresser is black.
She's black, yeah. I could have told her that I had just returned from the moon. Like, she literally almost fell over. She was like, "You live with what?" And I was like, "Yes, I live with white people." She said, "What is that like?" I have so many questions. And then she proceeded to ask me all her questions. One of her questions was, why do white people ask so many questions about my hair? It's not that complicated. And I said, well, see, do you see how you just asked me so many questions about white people? White people are human. It's not that complicated. And then she began to get it. And she was like, oh, like, there's a cultural difference. There's things that we do differently based on culture, based on hair texture, whatever. And if we don't talk about it, then how do we know? We're just left with our questions. So to me, yes, it is important to be like, hey, this is how I do my hair, because people have questions. And if your questions are always met with some kind of sarcasm or condemnation or an eye roll or whatever, it isn't helping the conversation. So no, this isn't all my hair. Like, you got a problem with it? Go talk to somebody else. Don't talk to me, because again, I'm still working on my sanctification. But yeah, no, and it's amazing, and the woman who did it was awesome, and we got to have a very open conversation, because I went on a day when she was actually closed. We got to have a very open conversation about ethnicity, different cultures, what I'm learning, the questions that she has that she hasn't had a chance to ask, that she's felt nervous to ask, and it just helped me to realize even more that no matter what your skin color is, everybody has questions, and everybody's a little nervous.
No, it's really good. And we're very excited that you finally have, like multiple hair people to go to.
Yeah.
It's been a little bit of a journey to find people that, when you came here, you didn't know anybody. Like, and I didn't know any black hair people. I was no help.
You know, but you were like, I mean, yeah. She was like on Google, how does this work? When I first got back, and I'm far from LA, so I wouldn't drive, all the way to LA for that. But let's see. Let's go to some of the questions. Monique, are you feeling better? I was looking at Bob's.
Bob Urbig.
Yeah.
Mr. New Jersey.
Shout out to Bob Urbig. Yes, Kita, crochet braids are the best. Yes, I am feeling better. I still have a cough. If you guys can pray for my cough, I have a cough that comes generally around 8:30 or 9 at night, and it keeps me up until like 1 in the morning. I went to the doctor today, and she prescribed to me a different medicine to be able to help control the cough. But I'm no longer contagious. I never had a fever. I'm like this round of COVID, because this is my second time with it this year. My second time this year.
Rachel says
it's a lot easier.
Humans are very curious. Yeah, we've had comments about this when we ever talk about the hair thing. Is that, white people will sometimes say, yeah, when I went to China, people wanted to touch my hair, or when I was in Africa, people wanted to touch my hair. So the whole like curiosity thing, I think that's sort of innate to the human condition.
I think so too. Just don't touch it.
Yeah.
No, back up. So, but I like that it shakes, because I always feel like white people had a marking on the hair shake. But see, mine is like, look, I know somebody gonna put me out there. I'm probably gonna be caught up on social media with this, but my hair kind of is like carpet. It's like sheep's wool. That's why I used to think Jesus was black, because it says that his hair was like wool. Mine, it wasn't shakeable unless my mama pressed it, but I only got the press on like Easter and Christmas, and then it was shakeable. Yeah, black people, we really do it up on Easter and Christmas with some you got to grease, pressing curl. Yeah. Anyway,
Vanessa let's keep going. My Ethiopian neighbor was shocked when she realized I can't just leave my hair braided without a scrunchie. They immediately fall apart because my hair is straight, fine, and soft.
Yeah, my hair is the exact opposite of straight, fine, and soft. Whatever the antithetical of those words are, the exact opposite, that would be my hair. Yes, I don't need a scrunchie. I don't need nothing. Okay, here we go. I watched the YouTube vid on taking care of black hair. Very different than my hair care routine. Yeah, but then there you have different. People with white people with curly hair have a very similar routine to mine, and so it just depends on the texture. I was in the nail salon. What'd she say?
Rakita.
I was in a nail salon, and the Asian woman was curious about my hair and touched it. I don't like touching. I don't mind question. Girl, yes. Okay, when I grow out my beard, what do you say?
Joey.
Middle Eastern people think I'm Middle Eastern. I can see that. I think I can see that a little bit. White girl with curly hair here. Yeah. Okay. I think curiosity is just one beautiful aspect of humanity that wokeness ruins. Yes. One of the many, actually. Yes. It's like we are naturally curious people. So why not be able to ask questions? Why does every question have to be met with I'm not Google, or, some kind of condemnation and shame and things like that? Now, you don't have to ask every question under the sun, but,
Joey doesn't seem to mind people touching his beard.
Oh,
then he says, just kidding.
That's funny. Gross. Yeah, it kind of is.
That's kind of how Monique feels about people touching her hair.
Because gross. I don't know if you wash your hands. I'm a bit avid hand washer. If you ain't washed your hands, I don't want you touching me. That's nasty. That is just nasty. Okay.
All right.
Let's keep going.
What are we doing next?
Next, we're gonna switch a bit to a more serious moment.
Okay.
There were, I want to talk about I don't know how to pronounce the name, Uvalde, maybe. The Texas shooting. It was, I think the final count now is 19 children and 19 children and 2 adults. So a total of 21 individuals who lost their lives. I know we talked about making a video or posting something about it, or like making more of a statement or something. And I didn't, and I don't know why you didn't. There are some times when
I feel like, I guess
there are no words.
I think that's part of it. And I just feel like everyone uses it as a way of getting clicks, and everyone's commenting. I'm like, those people don't need any more comments. It's like I think every senseless shooting is horrible. Senseless shooting of children in school is terrible. And I have no interest in, having a big political conversation in the midst of that. I just think there's an appropriate time to just take a deep breath. And I thought the best response actually I saw on Twitter was my daughter retweeted something, I think probably from a person at her church, and all it said was, "Let us pray." And that's from the liturgy that when you hear it every week, and I can just hear the bishop in his voice saying, "Let us pray."
Bishop Scarlett.
Yeah. And that's, to me at this point, that's, we can have the policy conversation and all of that at some point, but the loss of human life in such a violent, terrible way is, but there's really nothing that can be said about that other than, Jesus, have mercy on us.
Yes.
Lord, have mercy on us. God, have mercy on us.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the only response that I can come up with. I'm not a big head when it comes to that sort of thing. I don't have any words for that.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I think there could be people expecting a comment, well, you didn't say this, or you didn't come out and say something about that. And our silence or lack of a post or whatever doesn't mean that we're not in it. Doesn't mean
not everything needs a comment.
Yeah, not everything needs it. Sometimes the best thing you can do is not to comment and just pray.
Yeah.
To understand that there are some things that words cannot, for me, address or fix or help. It would just literally be adding to the clamor of what we're already hearing.
Yeah.
So yes, I mean, I didn't find out about it. I was sick that day. I didn't find out about it until 11 o'clock at night Pacific time, after it had already happened.
Yeah.
But I guess another thought that I've had is we cannot minimalize evil. I know people want to talk about mental health.
Minimalize? Is that like minimize?
Minimize. Minimalize.
Is that
minimalize is a word.
I don't know if that's a word.
Minimal.
Okay.
Minimize. Whatever. She know what I mean. She always, you see? We cannot minimize the impact of evil in our society.
Sure.
Yes, we can have conversations around mental health. I'm there for that. We can have conversations around security and how do we secure our children and things like that. What we should, in my personal opinion, also remember is that evil is here, and that evil happens. And this was a horrific act of evil. I don't want to say this was a horrific act of a person with mental health. This was a horrific act of evil. Period. Yeah. Yes. The violence that took place and what was taken from so many families, because even those who survived had something taken.
Yeah. And I like what Joey's saying here is he says, whether Buffalo or Uvalde or gangs or domestic violence or kidnappings or any other evil, we live in a very broken world. We do. And I just have to reflect, of how lost we are, and as a Christian, it's like, what does a society look like when we no longer fear God?
Yeah.
When we no longer have a standard about murdering and the innocent. Like, what happens when we as a society no longer have any authority above us? And we ourselves dictate, we are our own authority. I think it kind of starts to look like what we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
That's sort of where we end up.
Yeah. And so it has definitely been a very sobering 24 hours, but a very sobering, few weeks. We had the Buffalo shooting. We had the shooting down in Laguna Woods. We've had the one yesterday. I think there was actually another one in between those events. And so it is a stark reminder that we live in a world that is horribly broken and desperately in need of a savior.
Well, that's just it. Is like, to me, it just emphasizes all the more of the importance of the gospel, because I don't mean it to sound like just the tropiest trope, but it's in a sense that's the only thing that really has the ability and capacity to change hearts.
Yeah.
And so and I'm sympathetic. Novella has a comment here, as this is not our home. The Bible says evil will get worse. We're called to be the light, not making things worse. I think that's a debatable point, Novella. It's a thoughtful point. It kind of depends on your view of the end times. I did a podcast about this recently, where there's some views that Christians have of the end times that are generally pessimistic, that the world will get worse and worse. And then there's some views of the end times that says it takes more of a posture of the gospel will go out to the nations, people will be discipled, and things will actually get better. And, I think that would we rather live now or 500 years ago? Would I rather live now or 1,000 years ago? Like, there's a sense in which things are getting better, but in this moment, in our lifetimes, it seems like things are getting drastically worse. So it's a complicated issue. And I don't want to fall into a posture of, even if I have a more pessimistic view of the future as a Christian, what I don't want to fall into is the error that, the world's just going to get worse and worse, so therefore we don't need to worry about a conversation about policies, or we don't need to worry about a conversation about maybe there's some things that could be done to prevent some evil or restrain some evil. I don't know.
I think it's also worse is a relative word. It could be worse. Well, relative to what? And so when I think of that, I think you can look back 500 years. You can look back to the first century church, and they also believed that the end times were now, because they couldn't believe the amount of evil that they were seeing. Mm-hmm. You can see people who were, I think maybe it was under Nero, who were put on like tiki torches and burned alive for sport. That was the worst of the worst for them. And, and every generation has said this, the end is near because of the ills and atrocities that we're seeing. And I think the goal, though, is to keep in mind the Lord's return.
Yeah.
Like that we should be mindful of that no matter what generation we live in.
Yeah.
And to keep in mind evangelism, because that is the command that we've been given in Matthew 28 to go out.
Yeah.
And so as we keep those two things in mind, whether he tarries or whether he returns tomorrow, we are keeping in mind the first things. Like, this is what's most important, to evangelize, to allow people to know, according to 2 Corinthians 5, that there is a way back to God, that he has made a way to reconcile sinful hearts back to our holy God. That would bring hope to people, so that, whether they live amongst a lost and dying generation or not, there is hope for their souls.
Yeah.
So there is that. But yeah, good thoughts. Thanks, Novella.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, we don't hear you saying that, Novella. We're just just trying to play some things all the way out. And whenever I hear that statement on social media, I always like, well, the world's just going to get worse and worse. I always want to just offer, a bigger thought, because when non-Christians listen in to the conversation, if that's what they hear, then it's kind of an incomplete picture of what our position is.
Go to Wendy's comment, Antonia. Sorry. Is that it? She says, I'm the oddball who actually has compassion for the shooter, wondering what seed was planted that led them down such a dark path. Tragic for all, such pain and sadness.
I so appreciate that comment, Antonia. I, you know, I know that he's gone to judgment now. But in that situation, we always want to think about people who do commit crimes, that they are also image bearers and they also deserve to have the offer of the gospel made to them, and that there is ultimate forgiveness for their sins. And even though they might still have to serve time in prison, that Jesus's offer of eternal life and forgiveness and freedom is available for them too.
Yeah. So. I think you highlight to me an issue of justice. And so what I mean by that is, I think in our current society, or a lot of what I'm seeing, is that people are like, damn the criminal, just whatever, the criminal. But that's actually not an act of justice. In a just society, there are actually laws that protect the criminal as well. And that's not a common conversation that we have. How do we protect the guilty party until their day of judgment, until they have a trial, or whatever? People today are just like off with their head, whether we have, evidence or not, or, whatever. I have wondered, like, I wonder, what played into him the shooter shooting his grandmother in the face. What was that about? Or things like that. And I also am aware or cognizant of the fact that when sin is full grown, so yes, there were things that led up to this point in his life, sad and tragic, because his family also loved him. Yeah. And so they also have someone who was taken from them, and this will be a mar on their family for years, maybe generations to come.
Okay, you ready for a surprise?
Oh, I didn't know we was doing a surprise, girl. I got more things on my agenda.
Well, we're going to interrupt the agenda for a minute.
All right.
Have a surprise. Don't drink on the mic, though. I don't like that. Sounds bad.
Okay. She really be trying to boss me, y'all. I can't have water. I can't have coffee. What is this? What kind of stuff is this, girl? I'm thirsty.
Okay. You ready?
Yeah.
Respond to this tweet.
I would rather get I'd rather get an abortion than have a brown child who ends up being adopted by white evangelicals. It is not kindness to children of the global majority to give them to people who will traumatize them with self and ancestral hatred, and abortion is an act of love. See, this is where I feel like my sanctification, I have to grow in my sanctification. You don't want me to say what I'm really thinking in my head, because that would make people realize that Monique she's even less sanctified than what I thought.
Now, you used to kind of lean pro-choice.
Oh no, I wasn't leaning pro-choice. I was there. I was definitely pro-choice. And I did it from a Christian perspective. I thought. I'm not. Please don't come out and be like, there is no Christian perspective on abortion. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that I had made up a way in which I advocated for abortion from a Christian standpoint.
Yeah, her key verse was Joshua 1:8. Choose you this day who you will serve.
Yes. And so if all we had was choice, who am I to take away someone's choice by, telling them, well, you can't do with your body what you want to do with your body? That's where I came from.
So this tweet's been making the rounds, and I was just curious if you had any.
I really do. I have a ton of thoughts about it. Again, if I were to share what I'm really thinking, and I can't because somebody could soundbite it, and then it might sound like a threat. And I'm trying to, keep myself above bar these days.
You don't have any rated G things to say about this?
No, not even one. Okay. Not even one. Like, I feel like if you really think that it's better to kill a child than to put him in the home, or him or her in the home of a white person, the stuff you know what, never mind, I can't say that either. I think there's many broad stereotypes, many broad assertions or assumptions.
There's a lot of assumptions embedded in this.
Yeah. I think that, honey, if you only know people who are traumatizing to Black and brown kids, then you need to get some new friends, because apparently you don't know the white people that I know. You don't know, I would say, the majority of white people. But maybe her friend group is just filled with racists. That is a possibility. If her friend group is filled with racists, then no, I would say do not place a child there. Is it better for that child to be killed, though? Yeah, I'm gonna let it just.
Well, Rakita can identify. She says,
I have
a lot of thoughts about this, and y'all would see another side of me.
Exactly. Because see, if I was face to face with her, I can't really. Some things you don't put out on Al Gore's internet. Okay, because it can just be snatched and taken and made a meme of, and I'm just not trying to do all that.
All right, Rachel says she's only having PG-13 thoughts about it.
Yeah, see, I'm definitely beyond. Yeah, I'm at the. I got there we go, Rachel. Yes, there we go.
Okay.
Yeah, but that is just here's the thing. It is a damning and a condemnation about all white people. And if you fall into that, which she already has, I bet she has a lot of self-hatred, and she's just projecting that out onto other people. Honey, if you deal with self-hatred, then deal with your self-hatred. But every white person on the planet don't deal with self-hatred. Every white person on the planet doesn't traumatize Black and brown people. Now, apparently she believes that she does. So, or is she the exception? Is she the one who I would never traumatize a Black and brown child because I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, which just results in the soft bigotry of low expectations. So
talk to us about that, because that might be a new idea for people.
Okay, let me finish this thought. Right. If she thinks that all white people are traumatizing, honey, I would just say you should not adopt. You need to stay far clear from any adoption agency. You need to stay away from Black men. You just don't go there, because we don't want you accidentally traumatizing somebody because it seemed like you might be racist. You putting it out there about all white people traumatized, self-hate, all that. Seems like you might be dealing with some things. That's probably what I would say.
Okay.
Now the soft bigotry of low expectations is this, it's a bigotry that is seen by saying, oh, look at the little Black boy. Oh, he can't really do that. So, I'm just gonna, he got a low grade on his math test. I'm just gonna, give him the higher grade. I'm just gonna give him the benefit of the doubt because he probably can't do the math anyway, because he, only has, one parent, and he has to walk to school. So it's this bigotry of just you don't expect much. And that doesn't set people up for success. It does not. My teachers did not expect any less of me. And I grew up in South Central Los Angeles. My teachers were hard on us. They worked us hard. I remember being in 6th grade, my teacher would walk us like 2 to 3 miles each way for us to be able to go and sit in the USC library so we could see something different. And when we came back home, we was tired as heck. When we got back to that school campus, we still had homework to be done. We still had schoolwork to be done. There was no, you're not going to. But today you get a trophy for everything. You don't have to do much because maybe you don't have lights. I grew up with no lights. I grew up with no gas in my house, no lights in my house. And my homework still had to be done because my teachers were not putting up with it. But today everything is so soft. Everything is so accommodating because we feel so sorry because ... slavery. Y'all, we gonna have to man up, and we have to call people to a higher standard regardless of their ethnicity, because what we see when we look statistically at issues regarding education, regarding poverty, fathers in the home, those numbers are pretty consistent across the board regardless of skin color. So when you see someone who is struggling with poverty, gang violence, domestic violence, and the issues that creep out of that, whether white or Black, those statistics and those numbers are largely the same. It's not that white kids who grew up in poverty or Black kids who grew up in poverty have it so much worse than white kids who grew up in poverty. We see a lot of the same issues. But for the Black kid who grows up in poverty, there's this low expectation. We don't put the same level of expectation on that child. So then when, oh, I almost said something. Then when the ish hit the fan, that child don't have the gumption within himself to stay level footed. Where the white kid, it's been like, no, you're gonna get up and go to school. You might have to walk.
Resiliency.
Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. So we need to realize that there's no soft bigotry of low expectations.
That's good. All right, let's go back to your agenda.
What was I gonna talk? Oh, you want to talk about Jackie Hill Perry?
Oh.
Go ahead.
Not really. I have no interest in inserting us into a little dust up between Jackie Hill Perry, Jasmine Holmes, and Jasmine Holmes, and Allie Beth Stuckey.
Yeah, no, we're not gonna try and insert ourselves.
Yeah,
but I know you had some thoughts about it.
Yeah, I mean, so I always like to give a little context. There was a tweet. So this is what kind of started it. Is Jackie Hill Perry did a tweet with a clip of Minister Louis Farrakhan, and it says, "Say what you want about Farrakhan, because there's a whole lot to say, but this right here is facts. Hashtag Buffalo Massacre. Hashtag replacement theory." Okay, so then Allie Beth and Hill Perry, I guess, kind of got into it on Twitter. And I can't show you those receipts because after that whole dust up, Jackie Perry nuked her Twitter account.
Now, see, I know you said I don't want to insert myself into a conversation.
What?
But you got, how you going? It's like,
I'm just explaining the history. So,
but you got the pictures. You gonna be able to pull up all these, but you didn't want to insert yourself.
Well, I feel like the fair thing to do is to show people what really happened, not my commentary.
Oh, I'm just saying, go ahead.
Okay, so then, but I did read
Miss Benita, go ahead.
I did read through it all, and then I went on Jackie Hill Perry's Instagram account, which she posted on Twitter, and said, "Come follow me here." And so I went on there, and on her stories, she had kind of a longer explanation, which I appreciated. I don't know how to record stories on here, otherwise I could play you what she said, but I'm gonna try to be as fair as I can to what she said. And that, she isn't trying to be an apologist for every jot and tittle that Minister Farrakhan has ever said in his lifetime, because Allie Beth's point was that she was comparing Farrakhan to David Duke, and saying they were both racist. Now, you didn't know who David Duke is.
No.
He's a white supremacist.
Did you know who Farrakhan was?
Yeah.
I'm just playing. I know.
Yeah, I know who that is. So, I'm not going to comment on the comparison because that takes us down a rabbit hole that I don't think is productive. But Jackie Hill Perry's point, was, look, I'm not trying to defend everything that Farrakhan says. I just thought that this particular clip was truthful.
Yeah.
And had some truth in it. I think that would be a fair way of saying what she said that I saw on her Instagram stories. And that she recognizes that the tweet could have been confusing for some people, and that she reads widely. That was another whole aspect of her response. And doesn't mean she agrees with everything that she reads, but she reads widely, and she likes entering into the realm of ideas and having a back and forth and all of that. So today I was trying to find this clip of what Farrakhan actually said, because Jackie Hill Perry had nuked her Twitter account, so I couldn't watch the clip back. So I used my little detective skills to compare the still image to what I saw on YouTube. And I did actually find the clip, and it was from a 1990 Phil Donahue show, 2-part extended interview with Minister Farrakhan. And I think I found the clip that she played. Now, I watched most of the 90-minute whole interview, the whole thing, to understand the context and everything he was saying. I did think it was interesting, though, that a lot of what Farrakhan was saying in 1990, that's like he was always like considered kind of fringe.
It's normal rhetoric
super
today.
Normal now.
Yeah.
I mean, like, and I think this really reinforces a point that we keep trying to make, but I feel like people aren't getting it yet, is that the biggest problem is probably not critical race theory. You know, these were ideas way back then. And I don't think that Farrakhan necessarily was reading Kimberly Crenshaw. But these are ideas that have been in the Black community in different ways and in different forms for decades. And so people need to stop just chalking everything up to critical race theory. That's not helpful, but people, I don't feel like, are getting that point. So we'll just keep beating that drum a little bit longer. Okay. So I'm going to
Phil Donahue. That's all, man. Goodness. That was like something my grandmother would watch.
Yeah, well, given your age, you were probably about 10. So, okay. Let me play this clip, and then I want you to explain what replacement theory is. But I do want to play the context. There it is. Okay.
My work is directly to Black people. I spend 99% of my time dealing with us to help us reform our minds and spirit that we may do for ourselves. However, when you live in a society like this, and we know that in order to effect a solution to a problem between Black and white, then there's going to have to be some meaningful dialogue between Black and white in order to effect a solution. The young lady said she's afraid of violence. And isn't it sad that we who have been the victims of so much violence, now whites fear violence from us? We do not have a history of killing white people. White people have a history of killing us. See? And what you fear, may I say this, sir? What you fear, and it's a deep guilt thing, that white folks suffer. You are afraid that if we ever come to power, we will do to you and your fathers what you and your people have done to us. And I think you are judging us by the state of your own mind, and that is not necessarily the mind of Black people.
Okay. That is the clip. I am pretty sure that Jackie Hill Perry posted. So let's talk a little bit about this term replacement theory, because I didn't know what that was, and then tie that to what Minister Farrakhan is saying here, and then tying that to Jackie Hill Perry's point. So help us understand what's happening here.
So technically, if he's saying this in 1990, he would actually predate replacement theory. Replacement theory is a theory by a guy, he's a French philosopher. I believe his last name is Camus or something like that. Camus. And he believes that in every society, people are being either placed, inserted, minorities, with a goal of overtaking the white race. So he does believe like in a white race. I think that he could be considered a white nationalist, or something like that, and not in the white nationalist thought that we use here in America, because he's not American. But this replacement,
according to Wikipedia, he's a white nationalist writer, renowned Camus. So there's a Wikipedia entry about him. Okay, go ahead.
But they don't have a lot of I don't think information on him, but what replacement theory is basically is just a theory that Blacks, Browns, Indigenous people, sorry, I keep it in the table. Indigenous people, are seeking to replace white people either in politics or in society at large. That we would be the, dominating power. A lot of critical theory is wrapped up in power structures. So when you combine replacement theory with critical theory or critical race theory, it would be that there would be a replacement of power, and that white people fear this replacement of power. Thus, you get the Buffalo shooting, because white people don't want Black and brown people to take over. They don't want to be replaced by Black and brown people. So now it's almost a war within these two groups of who is going to be dominant, who's going to survive, who's going to, outlast whom. Now, to me, if I was white, I would just look at the abortion rates among African Americans and say, well, that's not going to actually threaten me anytime soon. Which is unfortunate, but there is this, it is a very real theory. This guy Camus is he's gay himself. He's pro LGBTQ+, and he has done a lot of work around, or a lot of conversation around, this idea of being replaced. I think he actually...
No, not Albert Camus. Different.
No.
That's a different Camus.
No.
Yeah.
But he...
So the idea here is that Farrakhan is talking about this idea that's proliferated among white nationalists, that and what was right before excuse me, what was right before Farrakhan's comments was a younger white gal stood up in the audience and said, the way you talk makes me afraid. And that's sort of the context of it. And she said, it's so divisive and destructive, it makes me afraid.
Yeah.
And then he keyed in on that word afraid and then said, well, here's what you're really afraid of. You're really just afraid of Black and brown people replacing you and taking over in the power structures. Now, there was a CNN clip that we watched earlier today. I didn't cue it up, but CNN was definitely cueing in on this and calling this a white nationalist conspiracy.
I watched it.
I played it for you earlier.
Okay. All right.
So
hopefully it trigger back. Go ahead.
But I think that there's definitely this idea of replacement theory is floating around now among the mainstream media as being, this is what is motivating not just the Buffalo shooter, but motivating white politicians, white people who are just afraid of Black and brown people taking their place in positions of power. So it's not just, the media is trying to spin a narrative that it's not just the Buffalo shooter as like a one-off kook. This is a widely believed idea. White people just might not know the name of it, but they have this secret fear, and that's why they don't want to attend diversity trainings. That's why they don't want to hire ethnically diverse staff people. And this is the assumption that's behind all of these assertions. Yes. And I think that's maybe where Jackie Hill Perry was coming from. She's not trying to be an advocate for Farrakhan per se. It's just Farrakhan was articulating an idea that she finds credible,
which is problematic by itself. But I hear what you're saying. Like, she's wanting to highlight something that she sees as a truth, that white people are afraid of, Black and brown people.
And that's what she said on her Instagram stories. I'm trying to be as careful with her words because I don't have that video, but I think that's
got some
fair.
peculiar views about white people anyway. But it just makes me wonder, like, where did you get this data from? What are you going off of?
That this is what white people want, or this is what they're afraid of.
Yes, like, because if I were to say Black people just afraid that, you know, white people gonna try and X, Y, and Z, like, am I not wrong? Like, you know what I mean?
Well, do you remember what I used to tell you when you would make big assertions like that? I would say that's an assumption that must be proven.
Yes.
Over and over and over again, because you would say, well, white people do this because, or you're afraid of this conversation because. And I would always say, well, that's an assumption and we can explore that. We can talk about data, we can look at it, but that's an assumption that must be proven.
But I feel like if a white person were to say, Black people are only afraid because ... she would be up in arms. I do also feel like, you know, if we were, or if you, not me, but if you were to quote some racist person as a helpful, you know, take on a truth, it could be a truth on cars. You know, Toyotas run better than Fords or whatever. But if the person that you quoted was racist, you would be, you know, in alignment with a racist. And now you in your heart are racist and things like that. But it's not given the same amount of issue when it comes from a Black person.
Yeah. And I think, you know, Jasmine Holmes had a series of very thoughtful posts on her stories. And again, I don't have those because they're stories, and Instagram stories go away after 24 hours. But I think that, you know, her point was, and I think this is Jackie L. Berry's point too, is that, well, I'm not trying to defend all of Farrakhan. Just, I think that this is a thoughtful point. Your counteract or your kind of response to that is, okay, well, then are you okay if, you know, we quote, let's say Thomas Jefferson
David
in the Declaration of Independence, but he owned slaves.
Mm-hmm.
So do I have to be an apologist for everything that Thomas Jefferson said or did in order to understand or think that this line in the Declaration of Independence actually reflects a transcendent truth? And I think Jasmine Holmes would agree with that based on what she said on Instagram.
To me, it's like either we participate with the genetic fallacy or we don't.
And what I mean by that is I think Jasmine Holmes is willing to say, yeah, like I'm willing to say Thomas Jefferson said some good things.
Mm-hmm.
And this quote from Farrakhan, I agree with this too.
Mm-hmm.
So she's willing to
be in that.
To be consistent.
Yes.
Yeah. And I want to be as fair as possible about their position.
I feel like the genetic fallacy, if I have it correct, and, you know, I'm still working on my fallacies, you can tell me if I'm wrong, is that we would say that because of where something came from, what it is related to, you know, nothing good could come from that thing because of what it is potentially related to. And so if we're going to do that, if we're going to look and say, well, we have to tear down this statue because nothing good can come from this because they own slaves, then shouldn't we do that across the board with all things? Or should we hold the posture that people are complicated, people are messy, people do and say things that I don't agree with, and people also can participate in ways that still are good, true, and beautiful?
That's someone like Thomas Jefferson can be a complicated person, and on the one hand say all humans are created equal, endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, and have a little side hustle with Sally Hennings.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Say it again. I was reading the comment. Say it.
That's okay. Never mind.
Sorry.
The moment passed.
Yeah, sorry.
You got to pay attention. You got to keep up with me.
I know. Tia Conway had a comment and I was trying to read it. Do we think these comments are divisive? At what point do we separate from a person constantly creating division?
I think it depends on what we're dividing over.
Yeah. And I think that's such a good point, though. Good question. Go ahead.
Well, I just think that if we're dividing over, the basis of unity, then I think some people are going to say that you and I are chronically divisive.
Oh, yeah, we are divisive for real.
Yeah, because we're saying this is our particular way that we're approaching the conversation about unity, racial unity in particular.
Oh, shucky ducky quack quack. My cousin Edwin is here. Hey, Edwin. Go ahead. Sorry. I just had to give him a shout out.
So, I think it depends on what you're dividing over. So some people would see us as chronically divisive. But I think I'm always want to be slow to divide, because I really want to make sure I first have truly apprehended the other person's point of view. And that's why I'm trying to be so careful. And like, it's easy to get on here and get more clicks if I'm super bombastic and say a lot of crazy things about what Jackie Hill Perry or Jasmine Holmes are putting forward. But instead, I'm trying to be as careful as I can in representing their points of view.
Yeah.
And now we can differ. It'd be great if like she would go to coffee with us. Like that would be a fun conversation. But I think we're coming at scripture with, this is our understandings and here's our understandings of culture. And I think that these are interesting conversations to have. And to Ali Beth's point, I think that comparing Farrakhan to David Duke, like, all right, well, we can have that conversation too. Whether that's a fair comparison or not.
Both were racist. Both had very strong views. One has strong views against whites, Jews, and things like that. Another has strong views against blacks. Both sinful. Both image bearers. What was I gonna say now? I don't know. I completely lost it.
But I want to ask your opinion on something that Minister Farrakhan said.
Uh-huh.
He said that historically blacks don't have, they're not the people that kill white people. It's white people kill black people, but historically black people don't kill white people. I think that's kind of the gist of what he said. What are your thoughts about that?
I don't know what the statistics were at the time when
1990,
when that was reported. Today, black people we lead the charge in regarding to crime against blacks and whites, if I'm not mistaken. I could be speaking under correction. And so, I don't really, I would need to see more data. I would need to see more statistics in order to make an intelligent.
So that's an assertion that needs to be proven.
Yeah. I would need to see more facts or stats in order to make an intelligent comment on that.
Yeah. Kimba's putting a series of comments here that I just want to make a general comment on it. Some people, do struggle in having these conversations with people that differ with their opinions. I think this is a general comment. Always keep in mind that some people might have strong opinions about things, but they might be winnable. I mean, if I had written off Monique because she was very committed to certain beliefs and even calling me a racist to my face, if I had given up on her and just said, well, she's just a useful idiot for the Marxist agenda, if I had characterized her that way, Center for Biblical Unity wouldn't even exist. And so part of being a Christian involves seeing people as more than the ideas that they represent. Sometimes, in some cases, we have to engage in what Scripture calls forbearance with people and to try to go again with them. And some people are persuadable. I mean, Monique and I had about 100 hard conversations. It wasn't one conversation and then we were done. So I guess my encouragement to anybody who struggles with patience when dealing with people who see the world very, very differently is to have forbearance and patience with them and to stay calm and to listen and to make your arguments. There are things I changed my mind on. There were some things I didn't know. There were some things I needed to learn. Very few people are 100% wrong about 100% of the issues. And, that's where discernment comes in.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to go back to the unity conversation and, are we divisive and things like that? We are divisive. The Bible is divisive. If the Bible was calling everybody to a kumbaya moment, I would be a little nervous. But it's because it's not. But we have to ask ourselves, what are we unifying around? I was trying to look back and see the whole comment, but I think Tracy said something about, are most people looking for reconciliation? I don't see the comment right now, but, I do think people are looking for I think people are looking for reconciliation. I honestly think that people are looking for unity. They just don't want it the way that God commands it.
I think the longing for justice, unity, reconciliation, all of those things, I think, are part of how God has oriented us.
Yes.
It's just been hijacked by the enemy.
It has. Yeah. And so when people say we need reconciliation, we need racial reconciliation, well, that's because we put our own man spin on it, our sin spin on it. Or we need justice, social justice. Well, that's because we've put our sin spin on it. I honestly think that people are hungry for unity. They're hungry for unity with people, all people. And this is why we see, we need to be allies and advocates and stand for one another and da, da, da. Well, I can only do what the scriptures tell me to do. I must stand biblically. And so this is what creates the division, even among Christians, because in some churches and Christian spheres, culture has truly crept in. And so now what you see among some is this cultural call, or this mandate for a biblical principle. But the way to get the biblical principle is through the cultural mechanisms. So the biblical principle for reconciliation, the steps to get there are filled with cultural norms. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that the end goal of unity, justice, reconciliation is good. And we share that end goal. And that was something I would often bring up with you in our conversations, is like, hey, I'm for unity too. Hey, I'm for racial unity too. Mm-hmm. I think we just have a different vision of how to get there. And once we had clarity about that, and you started recognizing slowly in our conversations, oh, my vision for racial unity is more influenced by cultural norms than scripture.
And there's only one way that's going to get us to true unity.
Exactly. Yeah.
To a unity that is supernatural, that actually says and makes us brothers and sisters. Like, I don't care what culture offers you. It's not going to give you what the scriptures offer you. It's not going to give you what the Holy Spirit offers you. So yes, it did take me a while to get there, friends. But what we have to recognize is that both sides want a unity. They want it, but the biblical version of unity and what we unify around actually gives us the boundary line for what our unity is.
Yeah. Yeah. And going back to the conversation about Jackie Hill Perry, look, I'm not here to comment about why she nuked her Twitter account or why she made that decision. So it's a free country. She can do that. And I might decide to nuke my account tomorrow. That's okay. And so, maybe there's a conversation, that people in her life that have authority, spiritual authority and influence in her life, maybe they'll have that conversation. Maybe they won't. I don't know. I'm not here to arbitrate that. But I did feel like we needed to there was at least value in trying to understand what she's saying, really what she's saying, rather than just throwing up straw men and
I want to read Tia's comment. Krista is, I do, and this is what I appreciate about Krista. When you get me and Krista, sometimes you can get two very different tones. Well, you always usually don't get two different tones, but Krista is extremely gracious. I do hear Tia's point. She says, I agree that there is a need to define division, and the truth of scripture is always the standard in separating from falsehood. Being divisive because your beliefs and your worldview is false is definitely different. How are you going to say that whites, go back to, because it cut it off here. And I feel like she just said this in my head because I was like, I can just hear this. I don't even know her. But how you gonna say that whites are killing blacks and then delete your Twitter like you didn't just paint a false narrative boldly? Like, yeah, I feel you. I feel you on it. And at the same time, it's our responsibility. Like Krista, I think is doing better than me. To give grace, to extend grace, to try and leave room for a conversation, to possibly help somebody to change their mind. They might see the grace extended and say, you know what, maybe I was out of pocket on that one, repent and things like that. But I feel you.
I want to read Chris's comment here.
What's up, Chris?
Unfortunately, for many in the church, social justice becomes more important than the gospel unity because of the adoptions of secular underlying ideology.
Yes.
I agree 100%. And I did a post a few days ago and I've been posting about the recent releases of the Barna studies about, the state of worldviews in the Christian church. They did a summary release of their data a few days ago about pastors. And if you want to know why so many Christians are captured by social justice and why we can't have even a reasonable conversation anymore about the gospel or unity rooted in the gospel, it's because we've got low percentages of pastors on pastoral staffs who even have a biblical worldview.
When your pastor don't know the Bible, Jesus help us.
Our pastors are more influenced by the secular culture. So it's not just the person in the pew. Mm-hmm. That's not the issue. In fact, I'm going to put this up here.
While you put that up, I just saw someone's comment and they asked how they can support us. Diamond Lace, how you can support our ministry. Just go to centerforbiblicalunity.com and there's a donate button right there. We are, I'd say 90% funded through the support of just regular people. So please join the family and support it. It definitely helps to allow us to do what we do, which is to call the body to family. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for asking.
Okay.
Oh, and then I want to talk about Tracy's comment too.
All right. I just want to put this up here real quick. So this is a screen cap from the Barna study. I want to draw your attention here. All right, senior and lead pastors, 41% have a biblical worldview, and we'll get into how Barna defines that in a minute. But I want to draw your attention right here. Teaching pastor.
What they teaching?
What are they teaching you? 13% have a biblical worldview. Your youth pastor, children's pastor, 12%. The executive pastor, who is often the person who does the hiring, 4%.
Now, how are they defining a biblical worldview?
I'm gonna read that to you right now.
You are.
So, for the purposes of this survey, I'm gonna highlight this. I know it'll be small on your screen, but you can go to Theology Mom and get all of the receipts. I got links to everything there.
You can also follow her there.
Yeah. For the purposes of the survey, a biblical worldview is defined as believing that absolute moral truth exists. Okay, that's the foundation. Mm-hmm. Your worldview will collapse like a house of cards if you don't have that there is some kind of objective, absolute truth. The Bible is totally accurate in all of its principles it teaches. Satan is a real being, not merely symbolic. A person cannot earn their way into heaven by trying to do good or do good works. Jesus lived a sinless life on earth. God is all-knowing, all-powerful creator of the world and still rules the universe. That's a fairly minimal definition, but it's clear. It makes has several premises.
I mean, if that's
and so there's nothing about the resurrection in there. Mm-mm. There's nothing about the Trinity, other things that I would consider vital. But
like this is the bare minimum.
13% teaching pastors. So if you want to know, why people are so caught up in social justice.
It's because people are reading more Kendi than they are the Bible.
Our pastors
yes. Our pastors, our leaders.
Yeah.
This is why I said a couple weeks or maybe a couple months ago now, are our shepherds really wolves? We need to be considered, like, is there some kind of, intentionally leading our flock astray?
Yeah. Yeah. Tracy says the irony, teaching pastor, 13%. Wow. Mm-hmm. And so, I think
that was Mel who said that.
Oh, Mel, I'm sorry. I just think that there are very good reasons why we are in trouble and why we cannot even agree on what the gospel is, which is the foundation of our unity. Mm-hmm. There's a very good reason why so many people are getting swept up into social justice. There's a very good reason why we read. I had a friend message me last night and she says, man, I just keep hearing this argument that in order to be pro-life, I have to be against capital punishment.
The devil is a lie.
I'm not sure how to answer that. And I really appreciate the fact that she reached out and asked for help. But it's like, where do people go just to get the basics? But I'm not giving my phone number out to everybody.
But that's because we don't talk about these things a lot of times in church. Like, and I know that this is a confrontational, statement, or, it gets people all ruffled, womb to tomb. But I'm definitely womb to tomb. I'm not saying that from the standpoint of, I can't be for capital punishment. And no, justice may at times demand your death. Yeah. So how do we care for life in the womb? And how do I care for someone all the way to the tomb, even if that might mean that your crime calls for this punishment, because that is what is just to the victim. Yeah. We have to have a robust understanding and ideology of justice, but we miss it. We miss it because we want to be compassionate according to the world's definition of compassion.
Ooh, yeah, that's good. Okay. All right, we got 7 minutes left. So what do you want to do?
I want to say Tracy. I think it was Tracy had a comment.
Well, there's 500 comments, so you got to be more specific.
Wait a minute, hold on.
Is it this one?
No,
it's not that one.
No, she basically sum it up. Sorry, Tracy, if I misquote you here. Well, I am definitely gonna misquote you. But it was something to the effect of, we don't need to be afraid because we serve a big God. And one of the things that I was thinking early on in this about, like, do white people have something to fear? I was at a graduation back in 2020. It was one of the last, or no, it wasn't even 2020. It was 2019 because it was before COVID. I went to a Black graduation. It was all Black graduation for an all Black student union at one of our major universities out here. And so many young people were graduating with bachelor's degrees and master's degrees in critical race theory. And before they did like the commencement, they had these speakers come up, and they were pouring, it was at a church, y'all. They were pouring out libations to the ancestors. But one of the things that really struck me, and I came home very emotional about this, was this call against white people, this call to, like, bear arms by any means necessary, we will take. And it was very violent. And I remember coming home and talking to Krista about it and being like, I don't know what's coming, but I feel like you might be concerned about this. And at the time, like, this is way before George Floyd or, anything from 2020 and all that. But could it, if I was white sitting in this audience of all Black people who are basically putting forth an agenda or reading out their manifesto of what they intend to do, would I be a little rattled? Yes, I would have. And yet I serve a big God who has not called me to shrink back. I serve a big God. When people write in, I remember in 2020 when people were writing in and you just did this and calling me out my name and all. And now my position was, let me call back, because apparently we can have this conversation. But
One time somebody left an angry voicemail and he said, I'm going to call him right back. I said, no, you're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
There'll be no cuss out today.
But, I think that, trying to tell people, well, you serve a big God. We do serve a big God. That's 100% true. And I think emotions are emotions. And the fact that I'm to a degree, sometimes I'm grateful that I don't have kids. It's very sad at times, but I am grateful to a degree that I don't have to raise my kids in this current chaos. Are kids a gift from the Lord? Sure. We can have a whole conversation about that. But I do think that, if I was white sitting in that audience, I would be a little ruffled. I'd be a little nervous. I'd wonder, what's going to be coming for my kids down the pipeline. But we do, and not even a but, yet we serve, and we serve a very big God. We have served a God who has not called us to shrink back. He has called us to courage. He has called us to stand. He has called us to evangelize. He has called us to stand on truth. He has called us to act justly. He has called us. And that call does not change whether we are on the heights of highs and, frolicking in the fields, or if we are in the turmoil and in the pit of threat and injustice, the call still stays the same. We serve a big God. And so, yeah, you might hear something and feel a little rattled. And I'm not here to tell you, that rattle is not true, or, to negate that rattle, but I am, I feel like what Tracy was saying, and I don't see the comment now, but I do feel like what Tracy was maybe trying to say was, you serve a big God. And so you can stand secure in knowing that your God is backing you. And this is why we have the family meetings when we're in town and when I don't have COVID, because we support each other. We get to come and rally behind each other. We get to come and be that reminder for one another that we serve a big God. Don't give up, unify, reach out, find someone in your community, reach out here, send an email, hit us up on DM, that, so that that you're not standing alone.
I want to address Chris's comment here. It goes along with what you're saying, is many biblically solid pastors are probably scared to address sticky subjects from the pulpit.
Then they need to sit down. That's it. It would be better for you, and this is probably taken out of context, but what did Paul say? It would be better for you to emasculate yourself. Like, sit down. Our pastors are not called to be wimps. And this is part of the reason why I believe women were not called to be pastors. Why when we look at God or Jesus's setup of elders, when we look at his original 12 and how they went and they chose men, when the persecution came, those people were the ones who were pulled off. Those people were the ones who were killed. Not saying that women weren't killed too.
Yeah, women were killed too. They were sent to the lions.
Yes, but by and large, a good number of those people were men. Those were the people who were the first line of that defense. And so what we need today is strong men who will stand up in the pulpit. This was the place. The place was for that man to stand up. There's just something different, in my personal opinion, when a man stands up and says, look, this is the truth. When we address hard topics, we can't be a generation of sissies who just, well, I'm not going to touch that because that's sticky. Sit down. If you can't address something and take a little heat on your back, you need to sit down and let somebody else who can do it.
Yeah. And I think that I was talking to a person at a Christian school, a very prominent Christian school in a major metropolitan area in the South. And they had called us about doing some consulting work with their school. And the gal on the phone made a comment, man, it's been haunting me now for 10 or 11 days. And just, I had that set up to do something.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay. But what she said was that, I said, what is your pastor? What is your pastor's position? How are they discipling the people in the congregation? And she said, well, our previous pastor, we have a lot of people in our congregation that work for high-tech companies, government agencies, NASA, and they have all been forced to go through these diversity trainings. So they just all normalized, and they're not reflecting on how these issues intersect with their faith at all. Like, it's not even on their radar. And I'm thinking, where are the pastors? Where are the voices in their life that ought to be providing an interruption or helping them think about these issues? And she said, we can't even get support at the school to push back on this stuff because so many of the parents have been indoctrinated in it through their jobs. And so this is why it's all the more important that, pastors speak up. And our friend Jeremy Bannister's on the stream, and he says, sometimes you just got to be unapologetically biblical.
Yeah.
And I agree.
It reminds me of,
here's what you can't do.
What?
Is you can't be afraid of getting canceled.
Yes.
If I was going to tell you guys one thing, stop being afraid of it. I think that's one of the most valuable lessons I've learned from you is you have to stop. Yeah. You got to stop with being afraid of being canceled. Like, you've got to trust the Lord enough that if something happens, there will still be a provision for you.
It reminds me of, in Psalm 23, where it says, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. The rod and the staff, those some weapons, those some sharp objects, but they kept the sheep where they were supposed to go. You could yoke that thing back if it got out of line, if it was about to go out of the pen or out of the pasture, like it kept them in line. And how can a rod and a staff bring comfort? Well, it's comforting to be kept secure. It's comforting to be kept in the place where you are supposed to be, where you're not out here with the wolves. And I feel like many pastors today, through a lack of addressing things that actually need to be addressed, I feel like they just ushering you on out. This the way. Go on out to the wolves. Y'all, we need strong pastors who are not afraid to apply the staff and the rod when needed.
There's a comment here from Chris, playing devil's advocate. Why has it been the Campolos, Brian McLaren, et cetera, who've championed social justice for so long, when the relativists led the way for those sympathetic with the social justice cause? It makes it difficult for so many to stay biblically sound. I actually am going to respectfully disagree with that, Chris. I've been following voices on the conservative side of the justice, what I would call biblical justice conversation, for 30 years. The Acton Institute has been around for quite a long time. And people like Cal Beisner and Thomas Sowell have been working on these issues for decades. It's just that the more liberal voices are the ones that were championed in many churches. Unfortunately, conservative churches just didn't have their game together. But I mean, I've been following the Acton Institute, which is a conservative Catholic entity, and their Father Robert Sirico's work on justice and all of the networking that he's done in that area of those conservative voices. Ron Nash was working on this issue all the way back in the 80s, is a conservative theologian. So I'm going to respectfully push back on that. Maybe those aren't names that you saw, but those are people that I've been following for a very long time. And what made me conversant enough to be able to talk to somebody like Monique and begin to bring her out of and question the ideology. So, okay. We've been yammering here for a very long time.
That's okay. We with the family, and we haven't
normally
seen them
you're
in a
like,
long
cut me
time.
off. I'm done. Cut it off.
Oh, Lord. See, this is a day where my sanctification is being tested. I am just saying. Let's see. Scroll down. Mel, yes. Okay. Says I agree, but those names were.
No, I agree with you. They were not pervasive in many evangelical churches, and I think I just said that that was a problem. But those voices were out there and in the seminaries, and that's where I first learned of them, was when I was in seminary. And I think it's tragic, and that's why we've done so much on our podcast to highlight veterans like Cal Beisner, who now he's in the older generation, but he's been slugging it out on justice issues for a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we do things on our podcast sometimes and honoring older generation people, even though, sometimes they're not like telling the funniest stories or, doing, like they're not, maybe some people say, well, that guest isn't very engaging, but that's not how we do things in the body of Christ. The way that we've decided to do things is, hey, we're going to have some young people on. We're going to have some dynamic people on. We're going to have people with big ministries, small ministries, and we're going to honor the elders who have laid a lot of the intellectual groundwork. And so that's why we have people like Cal Beisner on and that sort of thing, because those people have been doing a lot. So I think that there's also conservatives who have been, who are the people that were at the Colson Center?
There's a lot of people at the Colson Center.
They're like the legal people.
Alliance Defending Freedom?
Yeah, I mean, they've been around for a couple of decades as a conservative advocacy policy making group. I think those voices have been out there for quite a long time. And so I'm going to respectfully disagree.
All right. We've been on for an hour and 37 minutes.
I'm going to do Laura's comment here because I know she works at a Christian school, since we were talking about Christian school issues.
I thought we was wrapping up.
No.
Okay. Just making sure. Hey, Laura.
It's time to ask those and I think she's probably referring to Christian schools, since that's Laura's context. What our goal is it to play the moderate, to keep the peace on false unity, or is our goal to stand for biblical truth for our children, no matter what? That Laura,
Mm-hmm.
You're a little bit further ahead in your thinking about this. And I remember our very first conversation together. You weren't there quite there yet, but I mean, there's a lot of Christian schools that we're interacting with now that well, my grandfather would say it's decision time.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, I really wish that we had more people thinking like that. Like, you come from my kid or you come from my family, you're going to get all of me.
Yeah.
We aren't there yet, to me, as a body. We're like, well, you can come from my kids sometime. I mean, I don't want to ruffle the feathers. You can come from my family. No, we need to get to the point where don't come from my kid, don't come from my family. But we have to be able to see each other as being family.
And you see this as a cultural difference. You often say, you can kind of tell, like, oh, this person's probably white.
Yes.
And then you look at their profile picture, like, yep, they white.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell from someone's response, that mom is probably black.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at their profile picture and sure enough, they are. And one of the things that you've noticed is white parents tend to be a bit more passive sometimes when woke ideology is coming into their child's
when
classroom.
It comes to confronting it. Yes.
Yeah. They don't want to have the hard conversation. They don't want to confront it. They don't want to offend people. Whereas as a general rule, Black moms are not afraid of those difficult conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wish that, and maybe it's not a race, dividing line. Maybe it's a north-south dividing line or east-west. I have no idea. But to me, it has been, a race, that like a color dividing line. Maybe it's something to do with cultural differences. I don't know. I do know some white people who will be like, not today, Satan, don't come for my boo, not today. But
there's a lot of, there's a certain stereotype that I think has some semblance of truth to it.
I think I think you said it, and I heard it in Minnesota a lot. It's called white nice.
Yeah, it's a cultural value.
I'm not really sure what that is. But yes, that mama bear, yeah, like y'all, when I say like we go hard for the family, like that, it's not just some trope. It's not just, something to say because it's cool or it's cute or whatever. No, we need to go hard for the family. We need to have an attitude of, I wish you would. Like, don't we ain't.
So to explain the difference, here's a conversation we had very early on. The difference between I wish you would and I hope.
Okay, so look, there is and this came out before I was really like in my saved condition. But if y'all want to Google it, you honestly, it's funny. But Cedric the Entertainer does a stand-up bit. I think he's passed away now.
It's a little crass.
It wasn't Cedric. It was Bernie Mac.
Yeah.
It's a little crass. Yeah, it is. It has some words in it.
Don't watch it with your children.
Not with your kids. No, don't do that. But his name is Bernie Mac. He was on the Kings of Comedy tour, and he talked about the difference between hoping and wishing, that white people hope and black people wish. And so it's kind of like, and this happened to Krista and me so many times, especially in the beginning of our friendship, where white people will hope. Like, you go to a movie theater, you arrive,
Rakita says it's Cedric the Entertainer.
Okay, so it was Cedric. Okay. You show up and you're a few minutes late, and white people are like, man, I hope nobody took my seat. Black people will show up halfway through the movie, not even a few minutes late. We show up like we didn't miss the plot line. But I wish you would sit in my seat. It's just a different attitude. Krista and I went to the beach.
I was wondering if you're going to remember that.
And she was like, we can leave our stuff here. Now, first of all, I don't leave my stuff nowhere.
I want to go get food.
Yeah, but she was going to leave all our stuff there. I went to the
chairs and the towels. I'm not going to leave my purse, but yeah.
I just don't trust people that much. But she was just like, well,
it'll work out.
It'll work out. I hope nobody takes it. I looked around at these fools. I wish you would take my stuff. And she was just, yes, like, I dare you. Come, you feeling froggish, then leap. Like, what? I wish you would. But that's the level to me that we need to get to in the body of Christ. And I heard you did a podcast yesterday. Bernie Mac on the building fund. You need to stop it. See, I love y'all because y'all know we as I feel like it's righteous and ratchet. We Jesus and Bernie Mac. You did a podcast with Carl Payne yesterday, and he was like, he was using a lot of fighting language, and I was like,
well, because he's a martial artist.
That's my kind of friend. I said, yeah. He was like, you need to know your enemy so that when your enemy step to you, you can punch him in the face. I said, amen. Yes, I feel that deep in my spirit. I feel like that's a word from the Lord, because yes, I wish you would. Like, I wish you would come for the family. I wish you would come for my kids.
But many of the letters that we receive, often from white parents, is, I hope my school doesn't indoctrinate my child. I hope my school doesn't have them read The Hate You Give. I hope it doesn't have an effect on my child. Your posture.
I wish you would.
I wish you would.
I wish you would, because we're gonna have bigger problems than what you thought. But that also takes a bit of gumption, a bit of oomph. Like, you're gonna have to walk secure. You can't walk insecure, whatever. And hold that posture. You're gonna have to know when you walk in who you are, whose you are, and what's about to go down. And no matter what somebody say, this is what's going down. I wish you would. But not everybody's there. A lot of people live in this state of frantic botheredness, frantic anxiety.
Nice. It's what I call it, white nice.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't tell you how many emails and messages and phone calls we have with white people, usually white people. Not saying black people don't think this way, but I have yet to talk to one where the conversation goes something like, I don't want to offend anybody. I really try to be nice. I really try to apologize. I really try to say it in a nice way. And we spend a lot of energy trying to be nice and saying things like, I hope my child won't be affected by reading The Hate You Give, or I hope my child, this won't happen or have this impact, or I hope my child's teacher doesn't do this. But they're not proactive. And then they come to us like, what do I do? I have yet to receive a letter from a black mom who asks us, what do I do? Maybe it's a cultural difference, but black moms don't write to us and ask, what do I do?
But that also could be a thing of we don't put our business in the street either.
Maybe.
You know what I mean?
I don't know what.
We could be living in secrecy.
Yeah.
I have no idea. But this is just our experience.
Yeah.
But yes, I feel like maybe I should lead a class and how to live in your unbotheredness. Say what you got to say and keep it trekking. Because it's like, because I don't, this is really what's being said. I'll let you do what you do because I don't want to offend you. How does that really look? I'll let you teach my kid what you think, is you're going to teach my kid because I don't really want to offend you. I'll let you say what you're going to say about my sister over here because, if I say something, then that might offend you and you might have a thought about me that, isn't nice, and I don't want you to be thinking things bad about me. You can think what you want to think.
I said what I said.
That's it. Please teach that class. Yeah, I feel like that's like, yeah. Lesson 1, live in your unbotheredness. Lesson 2, I said what I said. Yeah. Lesson 3, 4, and 5, please refer back to lesson 2. Yeah. I think a whole generation of parents must not have known what was being taught in the schools to their children. I don't know if it was the psychology crap they taught or what. And I actually think that some parents did know. I don't think that, and yeah, I'm not there anymore. A lot of people used to come in and say, or they would write in and say, this just hit me out of nowhere. I don't believe that no more. I just don't. I think that people saw things and they didn't ask questions. So now you got hit it feels like out of nowhere because you didn't ask questions, because you let things go by for whatever your reason was. People let things go by, but to be like, this just hit me out of left field. I never knew, you saw there were things. I can point back to things that happened in America's recent history.
Oh my gosh. Watching that Phil Donahue thing today. It sounded just like conversations today about race. We knew.
Yeah.
We weren't listening.
Yes.
We weren't paying attention.
Yes.
But this Phil Donahue thing where they had Farrakhan on, it could have been last week.
Yeah.
It was the same conversation.
It's the same thing.
It was from 1990. It was the same. Now, I'm not sure that a lot of people were listening.
Yes.
Because, anecdotally, we were doing videos a year before George Floyd. We couldn't pay people to watch those videos.
Yeah.
Nobody cared.
But see, I think we do a lot of things when it benefits us. That's a lot of human behavior. Like we're not going to do things that don't necessarily benefit us. So then after George Floyd, it mattered. Yes. I had a reason.
I had a reason to get engaged with the conversation.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Anyway, y'all, live in your unbotheredness. Pray. Please keep the people in Texas, that the school and those families and all of that in your prayers. Darren and Vanessa, many parents are just too busy with their own careers to find out what's happening at school. And I do agree with that. I do agree that many parents are very busy. And yet that to me cues up a conversation on responsibility. And what are you willing to sacrifice? That might need to be a part of that. And I'm not talking about you specifically. I'm just talking about, a proverbial you. It's kind of like, I'm way too busy because I have to make the money. I have to earn, the keep so that we can keep our house and and, all the things that we have. But, when I think about that kind of conversation, I think about Latasha Fields, who is in the South Side of Chicago, grinding it out, helping very low income, poverty-stricken people understand how they can homeschool, how they can make a plan, even with nothing, to be able to homeschool their kids.
She goes door to door.
Door to door. If she can
says,
do it.
Here's the form you can fill out to opt out of the comprehensive sex ed in public school. And here's the other form you can fill out to homeschool your child. I will mentor you for a year. Come to my house and I will mentor you for a year and teach you how to homeschool your child. That's how invested she is. Yeah. So I think, maybe you need to have a conversation. Maybe we don't need this 5-bedroom house. Maybe we're going to have to get down to a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom house, and people going to have to double up. And we're going to have to share. Mel says that disciplining one's child is hard. Discipling, one's child is hard and it takes a lot of time and attention. And it sure does. And this is why I'm saying we might need to have other conversations on how do we do this and how do we do it well. So that we can make sure that our children are discipled
properly. But to say that, you know, my career needs to be first, then you're out of pocket and not talking about you, Darren and Vanessa, but you know, when someone says that, like, my career has to be first because I have to provide, I would say you're out of pocket biblically, because biblically you have the responsibility to raise your child. That is nobody else's job but yours as the parent. And so how are we doing that well?
Okay, friends. Maybe we made up for last week when you had COVID. We're almost at 2 hours.
I don't know, but I love this. I missed y'all. My goodness gracious. I had a question. One last question. And thinking about like show topics, blog topics, and things like that, what are some things that you guys would like to have us talk about more? Yeah. Can you put those in the comments? And I want to be able to read them and hopefully gain some ideas. So,
and really quick along those lines, we have a new blog out a couple days ago by our friend Kevin Briggins. So just go to the Center for Biblical Unity website, just click on blog, and you'll be able to navigate there. It's called How My Multi-Ethnic Church Became Divided Over Race, CRT's Impact on One Local Church. It's a great article. Yeah. He published it on his Facebook page. We kind of worked with him on the editorial side, but go check that out. And we're going to be interviewing Kevin about his experience as an elder in a multi-ethnic church this weekend on all the things.
Yeah, Kevin is my podcast partner on Off Code. If you haven't checked out Off Code, check it out. You can check it out on Apple Podcast, YouTube, or on our Facebook page. This week, or our latest episode, we do it twice a month. Our latest episode is on Black liberation theology. So
really good.
Check it out.
Chris wants you to teach a class on street fighting.
Yeah.
How to get suspended from school.
I got suspended a lot for fighting. Y'all, I was not the one. My mother did not raise a kid who was just gonna be taking stuff off everybody. No, whatever you give me, trust me, I'm gonna give it back. Yeah, it's really sad. Well, not sad. I don't think it's sad. I think my mother raised me to be strong. So I appreciate that, Mom.
Oh gosh. Yeah, give us your ideas for the shows. We want to hear from you. We want to do things. I appreciate if you guys think we pick good subjects and guests, but you know, we'll have our blind spots. So, all right, friends, we will see you soon, and see you Saturday. Join our conversation with Kevin Briggins about multi-ethnic churches. I think you'll find it really helpful. Go check out his blog post. Share it with your pastor. I think that will be possibly helpful to him as well. All right. Good night, and God